Good evening. We're going to call the Castle Hills regular city council meeting to order and determine if a quorum is present. Quorum is present, and we're going to go ahead and welcome Pastor Jason Upmore, the new lead pastor at Wayside Chapel, for our invocation.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Miss Denise reached out, a few weeks ago and just said, hey, we'd love for you to come pray. And I said, it'd be an honor for me to do so. I've been the lead pastor at Wayside just for a couple of months now. And yeah, we're just grateful for the leadership of this city. And yeah, just know that we're praying for y'all as a church. And so if you bow with me, I'm just gonna ask for God's blessing over our time. Well, Father God, just thank you for this moment, just to pause. And God, these are anxious days. There's a lot going on in our world. There's a lot going on in our city. And I realize even for the leadership of Castle Hills, there's just a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure that comes with leadership, and that can lead to angst and fear and frustration. And I just pray, God, that you'd come over the leadership of Castle Hills, that you'd give them peace, that you give them peace that surpasses all understanding, that they would know that they're deeply loved, that you're the God of the universe. You hold all things together. You work all things for good, even evil. You turn it for good. And you are always good to those whom you love, and you love us. And so God, I just pray for tonight. I pray that you'd bring unity. I pray, God, that you'd help us to be respectful in dialogue. And God, that you'd give wisdom to the leadership of Castle Hills, and that you'd give them energy. I know for some it's probably been a long day, so would you just keep them alert so that they can best serve this community and help us to come together to do that well. And so, God, we love you, and we pray all of this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Next up, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Lieutenant Davila, will you lead us? Thank you, Lieutenant. First up, we have acknowledgements from the Castle Hills Police Department.
Mayor and Council, thank you. Tonight, we'd like to recognize two of our officers and present them with the Community Service Award. This award is presented to sworn and non-sworn personnel who distinguish themselves for volunteer work in the community. In the early mornings of July 4th, catastrophic flooding of the Guadalupe River affected the Kerrville area and resulted in approximately 135 fatalities. Assistant Chief Itaco reached out to Kerrville PD, offered our help. The first week, they had plenty of people, barely volunteers. The second week, Kerrville PD reached out to us and requested for our assistance. On Sunday and Monday, July 13th and 14th, were the days that they needed help on. Assistant Chief sent out an email requesting for volunteers. At this point, little over a week after the incident, it's no longer a rescue mission, but a recovery one. This can be a daunting task, but as we know, that's what police officers do. We run towards danger and we go where nowhere else wants to go. We'd like to recognize Officer Jan Loera, Corporal Chris Ariola, for selflessly volunteering, knowing the gravity of the job at hand, knowing that what you may find and still volunteering to spend personal time off to help bring closure to the families who were devastated by this horrific event. Here at Castle Hills, our mission statement is to provide unrivaled policing services to an engaged and diverse community. However, you should be proud that this is not just something we do in Castle Hills, but wherever we are needed. Thank you. Officer Loera and Corporal Ariola. This one's not yours. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Davila, and to Corporal Ariola and Officer Loretta for everything that y'all do for Castle Hills and in this case, Kerrville. Okay, we're going to move on to citizen comments. I don't believe we have anybody signed up for non-agenda items, so we will go straight into the consent agenda. What was your name, sir? Okay, I saw number 4, so I didn't know if that was for. If you, sure, please come on up. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Well, again, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Gabriel Perales. I'm a public information officer with the United States Small Business Administration, and I'm with the Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. And so really in line with the recognition that these officers just received, I'm here because during a time of disaster, SBA not only helps the primary cities and counties that are affected by a disaster, but we also help the neighboring counties, the contiguous counties, as we call them, and the cities that are within that contiguous county. In this case, Castle Hills being a contiguous county, or Barrett County being a contiguous county, and Castle Hills being part of that. We're here today to share that any business that may have been affected or impacted by the flooding of July 7th has the ability to apply for resources through SBA. And what we have for any business that was unable to meet their ordinary and necessary financial obligations as a result of the disaster, we have working capital loans that are low interest rate disaster loans. And so any business impacted can qualify for up to $2 million. And that's at an interest rate as low as 4%, up to a 30-year term, and no payments and no interest for the first year. This also applies to any nonprofit that may have been impacted by the flooding within Castle Hills. If any nonprofit was impacted, they can also qualify for the same up to $2 million. Their interest rate would be slightly lower at 3.62%, again, over the course of a 30-year term, with no payments and no interest for the first year. So while it stands to reason that Kerrville got the majority of the attention for the flooding, it can be said that there's 30 counties now on our list of cities and counties that were all impacted in some way, shape, or form. And so while it might not be somebody that is in here specifically that may need the assistance, but if you do know of somebody or know of a business that is suffering economic injury, by all means, please feel free to share our information. So really, lastly, the last thing I'm asking is at some point in time this week, I'd like to follow up with city secretary or whatnot, and see if we can collaborate in getting this information up on the city's website, the city's email, however it is that the city deems fit, to share our information that resources are still available for those that may have been impacted. So the good news is the deadline isn't until April 6th of 2026 for any business or nonprofit who suffered economic injury. They can apply online at sba.gov/disaster. Or if they get there prior to our disaster recovery centers closing, they can also apply in person, either in Kerrville. We have a center in Leander. So there's multiple locations. And I'd really just like to share some of that information later on this week so that we can give this information to those who still might need it. So
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Mr. May.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city council adopt the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. May. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Daines. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Next up, new business discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2025-09-09 to adopt fiscal year 2026 operating budget for the city of Castle Hills by record vote. Mr. Duque?
Mayor, Council, attached is the proposed ordinance number 2025-09-09, adopting the fiscal year 2025-2026 operating budget for the city of Castle Hills. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, sir. council? Do we have a motion? Mr. May?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the ordinance approving the budgets for the city of Castle Hills, Texas for the fiscal year 2026.
Thank you, Mr. May. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Haley. Any discussion? All in favor? But by a roll call vote led by our city secretary.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Daines,
Aye.
Councilmember May,
Aye.
Councilmember Daines, Councilmember Haley,
Aye.
All in favor. Thank you so much, Ms. Heinrich. Next up, we have a discussion and possible action on ordinance number 2025-09-09-A to adopt the 2025 tax rate for the city of Castle Hills by record vote. Mr. Duque.
Mayor, council, per tax code Title I, Property Tax Code Subtitle D, the governing body of each taxing unit before the latter of September 30th or the 60th day after the certified appraisal roll is received by the taxing unit shall adopt the tax rate for the current tax year and shall notify the assessor for the unit of the rate adopted. The city held a public hearing on the proposed tax rate on September 3rd, 2025 with no public input received. The city council approved a motion to propose a tax rate of 0.578846 per $100 assessed valuation. The proposed tax rate is broken out as follows. The maintenance and operations portion of the tax rate is 0.5155 per $100 assessed valuation, and the interest and sinking fund is set at 0.063346 per $100 assessed valuation. I recommend approval of ordinance number 2025-0909A, adopting the tax rate of 0.578846, and the motion for that adoption must include wording that states, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.578846, which is effectively a 6.75% increase. The tax rate is as follows: M&O 5155, interest in sinking 0.063346. The total tax rate is 578846 per $100 assessed valuation.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Mr. Schnall?
This, the record of.
Got it.
You need a motion in a second. The record of.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Ms. Daines?
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.578846, which is effectively a 6.75% increase. The tax rate is as follows: maintenance and operations, 0.5155, interest and sinking, 0.063346, total tax rate, 0.578846.
Thank you, Ms. Daines. Mr. May?
Second.
Second by Mr. May. Any discussion? I just want to thank council. I know it's not a popular decision to increase taxes, but given the fact that values have gone lower and we have obligations to the city of Castle Hills, these are difficult decisions that we need to make as taxpayers up here to support our departments and make sure that they have the tools and the salaries that they need to do their job. So thank you all for your leadership. Ms. Heinrich, will you lead us in a roll call vote?
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Haley,
Aye.
Councilmember May,
Aye.
Councilmember Daines.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you so much, council. Next, we'll go on to item 6.3, discussion and possible action on resolution 2025-09-09 to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2026 budget by a record vote. Mr. Duque?
Mayor, council, during the 80th legislative session, the Texas legislature enacted House Bill number 3195 to amend section 102.007 by adding subsection C of the Texas Local Government Code, subsection C, that states the adoption of a budget to raise more revenue from property taxes than in the previous year requires a ratification of the property tax increase reflected in the budget. The proposed budget will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $7,991, or 0.018%, and of that amount, $8,933 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year. Staff recommends approval by record vote.
Thank you, Mr. Duca. Council? Mr. May?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution 2025-09-09. Resolution ratifying the fiscal year 2026 budget that will raise more total property tax revenue than last year's budget by $7,991 or 0.18%, 8.18%. And of that amount, 8,933 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax rolls this year.
Thank you, Mr. May. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor by a roll call vote led by our city secretary.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Haley. Aye. Councilmember May, Councilmember Daines.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, council.
Mayor, before we move on, I just want to thank Ms. Davis, Ms. Wallace, all the department heads and staff who helped with the budget process, as well as the city council. I also need to thank Mr. Perales. He started this process. So we're all happy that we've moved on to the next, the next part of the budget process.
Thank you, sir. Okay, council, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to bounce around a little bit so we can relieve some of the people that are here for different agenda items. I'm going to start with probably one of the most long awaited and go to item 6.9 to accept the recommendation of the city manager for the appointment of the Castle Hills Police Chief. Mr. Duque?
You got me out of order. I'm going. Mayor, Council, Police Chief Zuniga retired last September. 2 rounds of interviews were conducted in December of 2024 and February of 2025 by the former city manager, with no permanent selection made. The position was re-advertised in July via the city's website and the Texas Municipal League's Career Center. The city received 27 applications. An interview panel consisting of former interim city manager Perales, Leon Valley Police Chief Gonzalez, and myself interviewed the finalists. The recommendation of the interview panel was Gary McHone, who currently serves as the Chief of Police of the Salado Independent School District in Salado, Texas. Mr. McHone has over 30 years of public service experience and over 20 years of supervisory experience in law enforcement. His law enforcement experience encompasses serving at Salado ISD, the village of Salado, Texas, the city of Muleshoe, Texas, the town of Prosper, Texas, Southern Methodist University, and the city of Austin, Texas. During the job interview and later discussions, Mr. McHone demonstrated a strong understanding of the demands and responsibilities of the police chief position, the expectations of the position, and the budgetary issues affecting the organization. He indicated a management and leadership approach that will emphasize input from the Castle Hills Police Department personnel, as well as a focus on community policing and community engagement. I recommend the appointment of Gary McHone as Castle Hills Police Chief, effective October 1, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Council, comments, questions, motions? And Ms. Daines.
Sorry, I move that we accept the city manager's recommendation for appointment of police chief of Castle Hills. Chief McHone.
Oh, we have a motion, I think. Is that a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. May. Council, has any comments, questions? Mr. McCone, you're chief, you're here. You're more than welcome to come up and say a few short words if you like, just to solidify council's vote.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and council, and then Good evening, everybody, the staff from the Castle Hills Police Department, and definitely want to say initially appreciate the hospitality that everyone has shown me. Val, great tour guide. Appreciate my wife supporting me here tonight as well. In the interest of time, Mayor, City Council members, and City Manager, thank you for this vote of confidence that you're about to do this evening. It will be an honor to join the Castle Hills Police Department and serve this community alongside the men and women of the department. I recognize this is a meaningful time and moment for the department. My goal will be to work in partnership with our officers, city leadership, and community to ensure steady progress and clear direction moving forward. In the interest of time, I won't go through all of this, out of abundance of respect for everybody's schedule. But my commitment to you and our officers and the citizens of the city of Castle Hills is simply this: professionalism, transparency, and community partnership. Together, we will ensure the city of Castle Hills is not only a safe city, but also one where people feel connected to their police department. Thank you again for your vote this evening, and I look forward to the work ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, council, we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Welcome home, Chief. We're going to continue to jump around and go into item 6.16, public hearing on the possible amendments to Chapter 50, Article 5 of the zoning ordinance concerning short-term rentals. Mr. Duque?
1 second.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Or would you prefer that I just go into the public hearing right now?
No.
Okay.
Just need a flip. Mayor, Council, a public hearing must be held prior to possible action on the proposed revisions to the short-term rental regulations. There'll be no action taken during the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. It is 6:52 and we're going to open the public hearing. I don't think we have anybody signed up for the public hearing, so you're okay. I was gonna have you go on the next one, but you can come up now. Come on up, Mr. Cullen. Yes, sir. Your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, so we've been here 10 years and
Your name and address, sir?
Brian Cullen, 103 Roletto
Perfect.
Drive.
Thank you.
Right up the street there. So been to a couple of these zoning meetings and leaning on the side towards potentially expanding the limit of 10 for the short-term rentals that the zoning, folks came up with. And in my mind, just, I only made 2 of the meetings because, we were gone, just dropped our kids off at college. But it seems a little prohibitive to just only have maybe 1 spot. If you got 10 and there's already 9, potentially, 15 or 20, I think is reasonable, 1% potentially of the homes, which I've heard from 1,500 to 2,000, in Castle Hills. So just as a rough number, but we're for it. And then with the few meetings that we came to, there was a few other folks that similar to us that were wanting to do the short-term rental. Totally aware of, the problematic, folks on, I won't even mention we all know the road or wherever and where it's happening, and it's unfortunate. But I think it's part of it, but these zoning folks, they worked hard and they came up with a lot of, I feel like, really good ideas to say, hey, let's manage this a little closer. Let's make sure that if you violate these basic rules that we're going to have to take your permit. We don't want to, but it's just not going to work. But for us, we love it here. And so we just dropped our kids off. We're planning on spending, a little time away, but minimal. Got a great property manager to do it. totally agree with the 24/7, all of these other things, which is, hey, let's keep it right. You got neighbors around that you care about. So, but even with just the two meetings that I went to, there was at least 4 or 5, I would say, and it's probably in the minutes, folks that showed up and said, hey, we'd like to do this. I know on the other side, maybe the first meeting, I might have missed it, but there could have been some more against, I don't know. But I was here with Mr. Joyce, right back here. I thought he was great, smart. The other side, he's, it's in his wheelhouse, so to speak, the bad side. But I just want to throw my hat in the ring and just say we believe that we can do it correctly, and we want to. But to do a long-term rental, which with us, we're not, rolling in dough. If we're going to go take off for a little while, little income while our kids are in college would matter to us. So that's it. I'm just hoping that, look, you guys will consider, if nothing else, expanding that number a little bit. But even with the few folks that showed up, why would it just be neighbor on neighbor we've decided it's going to be 10, and the 5, 6 people that want to do it, only one person gets it, so, but that's it, thank you. I appreciate that, but we'd just be grateful to have an opportunity to do it, and we'll do it right because we care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. If there's nobody else signed up to speak, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:56. We'll go into item 6.17, discussion and possible action on adopting ordinance 2025-09-09-B on recommendations from the zoning commission concerning short-term rentals, possible executive session pursuant to section 551.071 Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney. Mr. Duque.
Mayor Council, on July 14th, 2020, the City Council adopted ordinance number 2020-0714B to establish regulations for the use of privately owned dwellings as short-term rentals to minimize negative ancillary impact on surrounding properties and to ensure the collection and payment of hotel occupancy taxes. On April 8th of this year, after a discussion about the issues surrounding short-term rental properties, the City Council approved a 120-day moratorium on the issuance of short-term rental permits and directed the Zoning Commission to review and deliberate the existing short-term rental ordinance. The moratorium was extended on May 13th. 4 public hearings have been held on May 6th, June 3rd, August 5th, and September 2nd. At their September 2nd meeting, the Zoning Commission unanimously approved resolution number 2025-0902 with recommendations to amend the short-term rental regulations. The recommendation was updated, and that was placed on your desk this evening. The recommendations include the following. The short-term rental permit is now called the short-term rental certificate of occupancy. Applicants must provide the name, address, email address, and telephone number of the property owner and the local contact person. A short-term rental certificate of occupancy is valid for 1 calendar year from date of issuance. The total number of short-term rental properties in a single-family zoning district, a B, and an AA? Okay, is limited to 1/12 of the total number of single-family and duplex properties on a single street. Through discussion, we verified that single street references a street from end to end, not blocks on a street. No short-term rental property shall be within 1,000 feet of another short-term rental property. The measurement is property line to property line. A maximum of 10 certificates of occupancy shall be active at any time. The maximum occupancy of a short-term rental is 10 total persons and 2 adults per bedroom. The hotel occupancy tax must be remitted to the city in accordance with state law. And a short-term rental certificate of occupancy will not be renewed if 3 violations of city ordinances have been found by the municipal or another court to have occurred on the property during the past 12 months, sorry. An executive session header consultation with the city attorney has been added to the agenda. If the city council would like to discuss the legal issues of the short-term rental ordinance in closed session with the city attorney. Staff's recommendation is to adopt ordinance number 2025-0909B.
And then, Mayor, if I may, this morning, I received some comments from Mr. Duque about the draft that I sent to him on Friday with this information. And because of the timing of the zoning commission action on Tuesday, the 2nd, and the requirement to have our agenda posted very quickly for this meeting, we delayed having the versions of the ordinance itself available until Friday afternoon or in Monday. Having received Mr. Duquesne's comments, there is an updated ordinance with the recitals, some of which are very similar to what Mr. Duque had read in his staff summary. And there is a slightly modified form of the actual text of the proposed new language. The 3 changes that were made today and are in the form that's on the dais include, for the total number of short-term rentals on a single street, it applies to the A single-family district, the AA single-family district, and the B duplex district. We added to this list the AA district. Second, the draft originally had a subsection that prohibited use of a short-term rental for weddings or gatherings unless the short-term rental was located in the G or H district. That requirement or that restriction has been removed based upon a review of relevant court decisions coming out of other cities in the state of Texas. And third, because we did remove that limitation on gatherings, and because gatherings, could be the reason for complaints, we decided that we would, instead of allowing a certificate of occupancy for a short-term rental to be denied renewal if there were 3 violations of a city ordinance within the last 12 months, that has been revised to say that a certificate of occupancy for an STR will not be renewed if there were 2 violations of city ordinances found by a municipal or other court to have occurred on the property during the preceding 12 months. So the final form of this ordinance and the text of the new language was distributed to the council for this meeting this evening. Council did receive the ordinance revisions with the amendment language, I believe yesterday from the city secretary. So that they had them for a little bit. And the only 3 changes to what was circulated yesterday were the inclusion of the AA district. That was just an oversight that no one had noticed until it was pointed out to the city manager. The deletion of the prohibition against gatherings, because I am concerned that it would not be enforceable. It was that kind of a provision was specifically, directly, and at great length denied by the Court of Appeals out of Austin. That opinion even referenced gatherings relating to the American Revolution as a reason for that kind of clause not being permitted. I was surprised to read that. And third, to have 2 violations be an indication that there is a problem that we do not want replicated rather than 3. I'm certainly glad to try and answer any questions the members of the city council have, as will Mr. Duque. I was at all of these zoning commission meetings and public hearings, and was the chair of the zoning review committee that initially had presented its recommendations about this issue to the zoning commission prior to the 2020 adoption of the short-term rental language.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Council? Mr. May?
I'm requesting we go into executive session on this.
Okay, Mr. Snow, you good with that?
You can just, as is the norm, just simply announce that the governing body is going to go into an executive session at state the time and date. The executive session purpose being consultation with attorney pursuant to Texas Government Code, section 551.071.
Perfect, thank you. So pursuant to Texas, section 551.071 Texas Government Code, we're going to go into executive session. It is 7:05 on September 9th, 2025, and we are now in executive session. Okay, thank you for waiting. It is Tuesday, September 9th, 7:40. And we are back from executive session with no action taken. Mr. May,
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city council table item 6.17.
thank you, Mr. May. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Next up, we're going to go into, let's see here, discussion and possible action to extend the existing short-term rental moratorium on the issuance of short-term rental permits until November 18th, 2025 city council meeting. Mr. Duque?
Mayor, council, staff recommends extending the short-term rental moratorium for an additional 90 days. This will give us sufficient time, if necessary, until the November 18th city council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. I know that we had a couple people come in a little bit late to speak. If y'all would still like to, you're more than welcome to want to make your trip worth it. The city secretary will call you up. You have your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Mr. Dextrace?
Thank you for giving us tonight, and thank you for your time.
If I can have you pick up the mic, please.
My name is William Dextrace, 203 Glen Tower. And when we came in, we were confused because we thought this agenda item was at the end of the agenda. So we didn't show up for so I apologize for that. Is it my understanding that no action is being taken on this today and it's going to be deferred for 90 days? Okay, cool. What our concerns was, we have 2 of these short-term rentals on our street within 6 houses. My neighbor, CB Slayball, lives across the street from me. He's got one next door to him. And I have next door to me is a hourly pool rental, a house that rents their pool by the hour. So we have some, when we saw on the agenda, we had some concerns that Glen Tower is really being turned into a commercial street. It's no longer the residential street that we moved into 25 years ago. And if we expand the number or even the frequency or even, how close they are to each other, it's going to further deteriorate both the reasons that we chose to live in Castle Hills and our future ability to sell our homes and the value of our properties. Because both of these houses are listed on websites that readily show not only the property that is available to rent on an hourly basis or on a daily basis, but it also shows our property in the pictures. So I really encourage, I'm glad that we're putting a moratorium on this. And I really wish that council would consider having much more rigor and much more robust regulations on what kind of commerce can occur within our residential areas of Castle Hill. So I appreciate your time, and I'm glad we're putting this off for another 90 days. And we'll be back in 90 days to talk to you more about this. But I do respectfully ask each of you on council to consider the impact of these short-term rentals on those of us that have been long-term residents here in Castle Hills. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Dextrace? Mr. Slayball?
Your name and address, sir, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. My name is Carlisle Slayball. I live on Glen Tower at 202 Glen Tower. And I'm the fellow that lives across the street from Dex. And we do have these 2 short-term rental situations. One of them advertises, and well, both of them advertise, one on Swimify or something like that, and the other is an Airbnb thing. The one that's right next to me advertises it, you have 16 guests, 16. And anyway, the noise level is enough to bother me. And it's not that I'm a complainer, but it's just at some point, Sunday morning is not the time to have to go out and figure out what's going on in my backyard because it's right next to their pool is. So it's it's not what I live in a neighborhood for, is to live next to a motel. And that's basically what it is. When they have the parties that they have, and it is a party house. And by the way, I think both of these sites say that, at least the one about swimming, no smoking, but alcohol's okay. Mine is certainly for alcohol use because that's all they do. It's a party house. I don't have, I don't want to be I don't want to, I'm a CPA. I love business, but not in, this is a neighborhood, I would think. And that's why I moved here. It's a very quiet neighborhood. And I've been quiet, but it's not so quiet anymore anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, council. We have a motion, comments, questions, actions? Ms. Daines.
I move that we extend the existing short-term rental moratorium on issuance of short-term rental permits until the November 18th, 2025 city council meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Daines.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. May. With a second, any comments, questions? Ms. Haley?
So this is not 90 days because we're in September, October, November. If we're going to say 90 days, do we roll it to December to cover a 90-day extension, or do we just say until then and drop the 90-day reference?
The agenda says November 18th, 2025.
Got it.
That's 70 days from now.
Okay, but we've said 90. I just want to be
Well,
sure it was one or the other. So-
I think that was not going to get us to the December city council meeting. So that's why we just
Gotcha.
recognized
Thank
that
you.
was.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haley.
Consistent with what we told the public you might do. Ms. Daines' motion, does that.
18th, please.
Perfect. And just to clarify that this is giving city council time to go over the fine details and make sure that we're putting the due thought that we need and that the residents are asking us for. And so thank you for your patience as we continue to make sure that things are perfect for the city of Castle Hills. We have a motion by Ms. Daines, a second by Mr. May. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Okay. If you want to get with the city manager and he can answer your question, we're moving on to items, and let's jump around some more, council. Moving on to 6.14, discussion regarding the we're gonna move to 6.15. Discussion and possible action regarding a request from Wayne Carter and Wade Middleton regarding the abandonment of the alleyway between their properties. Mr. Duque.
Mayor, council, in February, Wayne Carter, who resides at 124 Winston Lane, and Wade Middleton, who resides at 201 Winston Lane, requested the city abandon the alleyway between their properties. The city has the authority to abandon the alleyway and to sell land owned by the city. The generally accepted process is to appraise the property with a meets and bounds description or survey, which at this time we do not possess. Solicit bids or utilize a broker to sell the property for fair market value, which would be determined by the appraisal, and receive the fair market value. This evening, the item is on the agenda at the request of Mr. Carter and Mr. Middleton. The concern I have is moving forward with the process of engaging a survey and then an appraisal, with the possibility of a sale not occurring because the value is high.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Council, have any comments, questions? I see we have Mr. Carter here and Ms. Fernandez. Maybe you want to hear from them before we ask any. Ms. Daines.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Carter.
Perfect. Mr. Carter, please.
My name is Wayne Carter. Pardon me. I reside at 125 South Winston Lane. And I apologize that the other half of the petition signer, Wade Middleton, is not here. He's in Kentucky. But we're also represented by Blakely Fernandez, who used to live in our neighborhood on Foxhall Lane, to represent us in this matter. May I give a little bit of history? We got here tonight because the streets were paved in 1960 and all of the residents were assessed a certain amount for that value to pave the streets. The gravel driveway that measures 60 feet by 330 feet is a continuation of West Castle Lane that goes between the two properties of Wade Middleton and myself. It goes back to the back lot back there where the CPS right-of-way is and the McGimpsey Scout Park. At the time of the paving, when the residents were assessed a certain amount, the city asked by letter to my father and Mrs. McCarley, the property owner at the time, if they would like to buy that property for $1. I came down here about 8 or 10 years ago when the retired police fire chief, Mark Medberry, became city manager, and I presented him the letter. And he said, well, Wayne, we'd have to have fair market value. So it died at that particular time. I didn't pursue it any longer. Now comes Wade Middleton, who bought the property. And we have been dealing with a dust situation for all of these years that were compounded by one morning, early one morning, the AT&T boring contractor installing the fiber optics dug into the 8-inch water main right in front of our house. It took saws 3.5 hours to turn that water off, at which time both lots, both acres were flooded with 6 inches of water and a very clay, silty powder when it dried over our entire property. Well, Castle Hills was a little dog in the fight because Liberty Mutual and AT&T dealt with this dig-in for like a period of 2 years. Once they settled, the insurance was to reimburse Castle Hills to repave that area, and they repaired my mailbox that was destroyed during the process. I cautioned our Director of Public Works to make sure that that intersection had some type of geotechnical analysis to make sure that that supersaturated area was removed. Otherwise, we'd have nothing but a sinkhole. Okay, that was done. So we paved over it, and the insurance company asked what type of cover did I want back on it, because 2 months before the dig-in, Wade and I spent $5,000, and we did it with permission of the city. We put a dust control preventative over that driveway to try to control the dust. 2 months later, we have the dig-in, so it was all that effort was destroyed. So when they asked me what I wanted to put on there, I thought the abrasive characteristics of crushed granite would be better than base course and that sort of thing. That's not the case. It's a dust bowl. So what I asked for, I came down here and I spoke to the assistant city manager. Wade and I wanted to pave the area. We would pave it, asphalt, pave it. And I was given a document prepared by our city attorney, a legal document that essentially had 2 paragraphs in there that just, I can't think of a better word, irritated me. One was we had to provide a $500,000 whole harmless insurance policy protecting the city. And I went, hold it. None of us residents have an insurance policy for streets out there when the garbage trucks go up and down. Why us? So what I did was I contacted Blakely to represent us to see if there is, and since I'm an engineer and not an attorney, case law out there that would benefit us in acquiring the right of way. Yes, Wade and I are negotiable on a price, but fair market value at our frontage price would probably be like $160,000. But that's for residential real estate. Now, granted, this is not an abandoned alleyway because the Department of Public Works uses that 3 times a week to go pick up the trash and recycles from Wade's area. I put my trash and recycles out in front of my house on Winston Lane. So we are interested. We're interested in good faith. We've hired an attorney to represent us for any future negotiations This isn't a pie in the sky. I'm just something that I want to do. I mean, I've already been in medical treatment with an allergist. Twice I've come down within the last 6 months, some type of, yes, I'm allergic to ragweed and mountain cedar, but I've got some kind of dust problem. And I am on the prevailing wind side of that gravel driveway. You can write your name on my front porch tables or my back deck tables every day of the week because the wind blows in my direction every day. So with that said, I have visited with most of the city council on this last year. We're interested in doing this, but that's why we have hired Blakely to represent us to give more credence, credibility to our efforts. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Is it all right if I?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. Blakely Fernandez, I'm an attorney with Bracewell, and it's nice to be back in Castle Hills and to see you all again. I just want to clarify something that the city manager said, that it's customary to pay fair market value for these kinds of abandoned alleyways. It's really not customary and not required by state law. So the local government code provides that where you have narrow tracts of land that could not be developed under your zoning, which this would qualify, right? It's too small to put a house on it. It's too small for any commercial use. So it's an effectively unusable opening between these two residential properties, that can be conveyed by the city to an abutting property owner or the abutting property owners at no charge. No fair market value is required. No appraisal is required. There is no bidding required. This is something I've done numerous times in the city of San Antonio and downtown San Antonio. We've shut roads and not required payment where it makes sense because there's another governmental interest at play. So in this case, you've got what somebody at some point envisioned would be a through street, but it's a street between two residential properties that goes nowhere. It's never going to go anywhere, right? It abuts a fence. CPS is going to need a continued easement on it, so nothing's ever going to be built on top of it. And it requires the city to do some type of maintenance over it. It requires trash pickup at the end of that street instead of coming out onto Winston, which would be the other alternative, probably easier on city staff and public works than driving back and forth up there. And you've got abutting property owners willing to take the responsibility. And so the ordinary course would be that in a case like this, where this land actually has no value to anybody, nobody could buy it and do anything with it, that you wouldn't proceed with appraisals and bids and that whole process. You'd follow Chapter 272 of the local government code, which allows you to do this, and that you'd make an agreement with your residents that they manage the property that they already own, right? Residents own to the middle of the street line. You carry the easement, and you would just divide that, and it would become part of their residential obligation. That is really how we ordinarily do this.
Thank you. Mr. Schnall, I see you queuing up over there.
Well, the provision of the local government code that Ms. Fernandez is citing does have an exception when the transit conveyance involved is with one or more abutting property owners who own an underlying fee simple ownership in the abutting property. However, unlike her experience, my experience in purchasing streets like this or alleys like this from the city of San Antonio has involved the payment of a price that was determined by the city's land disposition division, in which situations they did an internal valuation using the land value as established by the Bear Appraisal District for the adjoining property, and then gave a 20% discount. And that is what two separate clients of mine paid when they bought streets adjoining their owned property from the city of San Antonio. I disagree with Ms. Fernandez that the city can simply give it to Mr. Carter and Mr. Middleton. I think the Constitution prohibits the city from giving away public property.
Will you be
There is a
giving-
question about valuation, but I do not think the city can give away public property.
So the property owners own to the middle of the street. So you're not giving away fee, you'd be terminating your easement over it. And that easement right now provides you no value. It provides you an obligation, a maintenance obligation. You carry some liability on that tract, but there's no value to you or to the residents for it. There's only two families that can use that because it goes into their driveways.
I haven't seen any survey to know whether it's an easement or a right of way. I don't know. I've never been given a drawing that shows any survey of that property, so I don't know.
So before the easement would be released, you would need a survey because we'd want to record all of this properly and the property records. But the suggestion that there needs to be more of a process, this application's been on file, the petition since February. So 8 months and 3 city managers later, the residents are still dealing with the dust and the mess and the frustration that this is not a complicated question. It's an easement that provides you no value, carries some liability and some obligations. And if you were to release that easement, there would be a value to the city. Right now, you don't have the maintenance obligation and you don't have the liability that you carry on all city territories. So, if there was a thought that there needed to be some type of monetary trade as opposed to just the residents taking over the obligation of that tract, there's $10, $1, $100. There's those kind of agreements happen all the time, but it doesn't make sense to try and appraise a dead end one driveway width street. We know what value that is. No one can buy it. You can't build anything on it. You can't do anything with it. So to assume it carries the same per square foot value that the homes do doesn't make any sense. It's not a fair way to treat the residents.
Mr. May, you had a comment?
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a little bit of history. That's not necessarily a roadway to nowhere. It goes to the back part of the Boy Scout camp. And there's a contingency involved with the city and that particular property. That property is no longer used for that purpose, meaning Boy Scouts camp. It reverts to Castle Hills. And we don't know the other contingencies either. So that is actually a backdoor route to not only the Boy Scouts, but there's another easement. And that easement goes the whole length of that back half of the west of West Division. And we've had numerous discussions about a walking or a hiking path. So I think it's premature to make a conclusion that it has zero value. One of my questions has to do with contingencies in general.
Mhm.
I mean, you're representing your client, and the city may have a contingency that tripwires the actual usefulness of that part of the road that you're talking about. And I guess I'm just curious whether your client would be interested in allowing the city the same kind of consideration of getting that property back if that other contingency were.
I mean, I think it's probably something worth giving more thought to. In part, Mr. Carter and his neighbors have spent decades trying to restore a neighborhood on Winston, right, that has just been attacked from every possible direction. It's succeeded, right? There's houses coming up. The efforts have been fruitful, creating a thoroughfare there between two homes. That may not be what is the best thing for the city. Should the land convert and become part of the city, become developed? I don't know that that's wide enough for the kind of traffic that would be coming back and forth there. I don't know that makes sense to be that close to two residential homes, abutting on either side, but without any kind of setback. That may not be the plan that you want.
I have one other question. Is there no other alternative than what you're proposing to solve the real problem you've identified, which is we're in a historic drought. Everyone in Texas has gotten rain apparently, except here until recently. But that's not breaking us from the
Yeah.
drought. So we're in a historic moment right here in Castle Hills with dust. And we're not going to have that every single year. Is there not a way to remedy the problem you originally identified?
If the problem's just dust, I mean, there's things that you can do, like Wayne was talking about, they put a dust cover on before the utility dug it up. There's things you can do to mitigate the dust. The city could pave that. I guess the bigger question is, why? Why, to what end does the city want to own this division between two residential properties that feels more like a driveway between these two homes? It does give CPS access, right? And so many lots have CPS easements and you've got to protect those. But I don't know, I don't know why the city would want to retain this land that it could never really be used for anything else.
I don't know if it's as much as trying to retain, but as going to other alternatives that can address Mr. Carter's concerns. If there's hesitancy doing it by textbook, which I think is kind of what I'm hearing is a little bit of concern with us taking decisions that maybe are different than section 272. Ms. Deans, you had a question?
Yes. First, it seems like the dust is really the biggest problem, and I don't want to oversimplify Mr. Carter, but I feel like is there not a way to plant grass seed or something like that that would end the dust problem if you had actually growing grass there? Like I said, I don't want to oversimplify, but I feel like if it weren't, crushed granite or whatever it is that's creating the dust problem, would that solve it?
Any roadway medium that you put down that has some traffic on it has got to bear the weight. So you'd be putting a Band-Aid if you don't put some type of a hard surface. And that's what Wade and I wanted to do a year ago. We were going to pay for the street to be paved. But then I was presented this document that said I had to buy a $500,000 insurance policy and hold harmless the city. Well, and that was forever. Forever. We had to have an insurance policy forever. So the other thing that I would like to pony on to what Ms. Fernandez said to answer Councilman May's concern. If that road ever gets opened up, it will open up Pandora's box for what we have fought for 28 years of that neighborhood. If the city gets the property, like is in the deed for the McGimsey deed to the Scouts, they stay there as long as they're doing Boy Scout activities. Okay, you've got a 30-foot overhead transmission right away above there that street would have to go under. But for whatever reason, if that park gets developed as a park and that's a way in or out, can you imagine what that's going to do to our neighborhood? I mean, y'all all know what we've had to do with the church, the Basis Charter School, putting 1,000 cars on our street down to Antonian High School. We don't want more traffic on that street. And that's what that would do, Councilman. I understand your concern, but Wade and I, especially Wade, he would have that traffic in his front door, his side door, because that 60-foot right-of-way is he is way within any type of setbacks that were back then. His house, it would be right on that right of way. Granted, mine's way back off, but you need to protect us. And this is what Wade and I have really been wanting to do, is to get a hold of that gravel driveway. We'll pave it. It'll be our own. We'll work out an easement with Blakely's help. City Public Service has an easement all the way down, but they only use half of it because that line was abandoned at my house that serves the McGimsey Ranch back then. So there's only half of the property line that has a overhead distribution line. But what we're asking for is I'm not going to say no brainer, but you're protecting the neighborhood if you do it. You're protecting the neighborhood if you do it. And we neighbors have fought for 28 years to make that area ours and not have an influx of that kind of traffic coming through. Sorry.
Ms. Haley, you had a comment?
Wait, so if you've got a dust problem now, and so say we said, okay, and you do whatever we have to do to make this go for you, then you're going to fix that, but then it'll be yours, so you don't owe the city any kind of an insurance policy. That's what you're going for. That's what you want,
Right.
is to give half of deed replat your lot and Mr. Middleton's lot and just make it half yours and half his. But then what happens to the city public service easement and the trucks that go up and down there anyway, and you've cut off the access to
Well, you can't
people that might need that.
You can't cut off access to city public service when they have an in-place easement.
But you want to close the street. You want to close it off.
Well, close the street to traffic and take the blue line away, because anytime there is a scout activity, folks don't use maps anymore. They follow the blue line. We have parents come into our backyard because they're following the blue line to get to the scout park. No, we're not talking about preventing CPS from servicing that pole. That pole serves both our homes.
I think they're asking for the right to maintain that. So when they offered to pave it, because it's a city easement, the city needed the assurance that the pavement would hold up, that there would be insurance over it in perpetuity. If the city no longer holds an easement over it, if the owners choose to pave it, then the city's not at any risk for it. So I think they're really just looking for the opportunity to maintain this in compliance with the CPS easement. So it's not going to expand their physical property rights. They also can't do anything with it, right? They can pave it so the trucks can get in and out. If it wasn't a city easement, then your public works trucks won't be driving on it. So the other neighbor will have to pull his trash to Winston. But it's just the right to be able to take care of it so the city doesn't have to.
Mr. Carter, your intent is to pave it.
Yes.
So, and I'm just thinking out loud here, trying to get you a solution. Would it be possible for you to donate the money that it would cost to pave it to the city of Castle Hills? And so that we could effectively pave it for you, and you can forego the insurance for life.
Already had the estimate at $10,000.
Well, I got one thumbs up. Mr. Schnall? It doesn't look like a thumbs up, but.
But bear in mind, there's a double-edged sword here, Mayor. Wade and I are looking to shut that down because we're so fearful of what could happen. Not in my lifetime at Hills Bells, but
Mayor, so when you abandon pieces of property, one of the steps is you have to verify with all the possible utility companies in the area that they do not have easements in that area. So we've not done that because we have no survey to know if CPS, AT&T, Google Fiber, Spectrum, et cetera, our saws have any sort of utility easements in this area, because they have to sign off on letters saying, if we have an easement here, we would sign off on releasing it. We're not using it. It's a moot issue for us.
But we don't.
Well, my understanding, that's a process we have to go through because we're the landholder right now. So here again, this is where the question of, are we talking about an easement or are we talking about right of way? Because my understanding of easements in Texas is my easement is on your property. I have the use of that land, but at the end of the day, It's yours as the property owner. Right of way is land owned by the city of Castle Hills. So we keep on saying easement. Are we talking about an easement? Are we talking about a survey? Because I've never seen a survey or right of way, because I've never seen a survey of this property. That's how preliminary all of this discussion is. I have a petition. I don't have surveys. I have nothing that shows what is on this property. I have nothing that shows setbacks, utility easements, nothing. That's
Excuse
part of
me.
my problem in being able to know where this is going.
Excuse me, Mr. Ducoy. The 60-foot right-of-way, and I call it a right-of-way, that's city property.
No, it's your,
Calling it an easement, suggesting it's actually you and Mr. Middleton's, not the city's.
Okay, then, okay.
this is the most typical way, and my property in Castle Hills followed this, and they tend to follow in neighborhoods. There's a few pieces close to the river downtown San Antonio that are different, but the most typical way is that the property owner owns to the middle of the street, and the city has an easement that's a superior right to use that, and the city maintains the streets that way. And that is typically, that's why abutting property owners have the right to take property, to have the conveyance of property without fair market value under the chapter, is because that's a recognition that the streets are typically owned by the residential property owner to the middle of the street, and the city holds the easement.
And if the property is platted, the plat will control. And I think in Castle Hills, some of the property is, some of the subdivision areas are platted and some are not. But, you know, I have stakes in my front yard, and I think Mr. Smith probably has stakes in his front yard, where our construction company, which is doing complete rebuilds of 2 streets, think my property line is. And it's a lot further away from the paved area of the street than my surveyor told me
But that
25 years ago.
That may not be that they're staking your property line as much as they're staking the public's easement.
Well, but you're saying the same, you're saying it differently, but it's really the same issue,
But it's-
Blakely.
But it's the fee ownership underlies the easement.
The appraisal district map shows a
The-
gap between the 2 properties.
The appraisal district map doesn't show property lines going.
Oh, I know that, but they also don't, they're not off 60 feet. And
They-
that's,
But that's the width.
it's showing a
it's the
gap
width of it
that
to
is
be-
contiguous with the city streets
Yeah.
that are running right there.
That's-
It's,
That's how it looks across the county. All of it looks like that universally. But that doesn't change the nature of the fact that the fee,
Mayor, Council, my concern with the request is the possibility of incurring costs for a survey and appraisal. And at the end of the day, if the potential buyer is not agreeable to the fair market value price, then we've spent possibly thousands of dollars for no purpose. And at the same time, we can have some sort of agreement that they will agree to reimburse us those expenses at the end of this process. I don't think that's allowable. That's kind of where, if the city attorney were agreeable to the mayor's suggestion, yeah, I kind of see where that maybe would solve some of these problems.
And I do think that what we do need is at least to see what the plat of this area shows in relation to property lines and rights of way and dedications on a plat. Mr. Middleton, who apparently bought his property not that long ago, may have a survey that will show his property lines. I don't know whether the Carter family does or not, but I think we need to have that information in order to determine exactly whether this is, as Mr. Duque suggests, a right-of-way, which is essentially owned by the city by virtue of a plat, or, as Ms. Blakely Fernandez suggests, that it's just part of Mr. Carter's and Mr. Middleton's property to the center line. I have seen it both ways, and I have not necessarily seen it more the way she describes as opposed to more the way Mr. Duque sees it. Most of the time in platted subdivisions, it's the way Mr. Duque describes it, where there's a property line, a lot line along the front, there's a gap, and then there's a lot line for the property across the street where that lot begins. But I think the real issue here is, and I appreciate the information they provided because it is new to me. It wasn't part of the information that Mr. Rapley gave me when this issue was presented to me. And I will admit guilt that I did a license agreement that would have allowed Mr. Middleton and Mr. Carter to pave that property at their cost, but the city needed to have insurance against a claim made against the city because of whatever they did on that property, whether it was paving it or something else. And I did not think that the requirement to provide that kind of insurance would be significantly burdensome because it may just be an endorsement to a homeowner's policy. But obviously, Mr. Carter was offended, and I apologize to Mr. Carter if I offended him with that language. I think we need more information before this is ready for council action. I think the mayor's suggestion is part of that analysis to see whether that would be a solution whereby Mr. Carter and Mr. Middleton get the relief they want from the they want, expect, and need from the dust, but and would eliminate the need for them to provide insurance protection to the city. That is certainly something worth doing. And if Mr. Carter could provide a copy of his estimate for the city manager and the city's outside engineers to take a look at, that might be helpful in moving that idea forward.
Thank you, Mr. Schnall.
I'd like to suggest that Mr. Carter come back with a survey. I mean, that's something that I think you've got an original survey, maybe an updated survey, because that could answer some of the technical questions. It's going to need to be done anyway. But I would say that the idea that these two residents pay for the paving of the street will then lead to they're going to be responsible for maintaining that paving. And now you've got two residents out of your whole city that somehow are responsible for city streets. No one else is asked to do this, just these two. It seems unreasonable to me that you're putting this burden on only two homes in the whole city.
And I didn't think the mayor's comment would have led to the property owners having liability going forward. I think the whole purpose of the mayor's idea was that the city would not bear the expense for the paving, but the city would have the responsibility for upkeep of that paving, just like they have on the upkeep of the paving on every public street in the city of Castle Hills.
Yeah, I think that would be the hope, but just by the discussion today, I mean, if it's the residents' burden to pave it now, because it only impacts these two folks, there's very little incentive, obviously, for the city to take on this project. I mean, that's the situation they're in right now, right? They need it paved. They've been willing to pay for it. They've put the petition in. It's been 8 months with no discussion or response. And it's a long time.
Well, they got a response, Ms. Fernandez. They got a license agreement that would allow them to do whatever they wanted in that area. And the only burden that I remember placing that the city would place on the property owners was to provide a relatively modest amount of liability insurance in the event of a claim that was based upon what they did on city property. But that's unacceptable, so we're trying to move to a way to get a solution that will work for both Mr. Carter and Mr. Middleton on one side and the city on the other.
So I guess what I'm hearing is we need to get some more information, the legal description for the property, and bring that back to the city. Obviously, probably meet with Mr. Duque and Mr. Schnall to solidify what exactly we're talking about here so that we can hopefully come forward with the recommendation that Mr. Duque can support to the city council.
Okay.
Is everybody on the same page?
Does that work for you?
Cliff Notes.
Cliff notes or,
The application, supplement your petition with a survey.
I have the survey, 1946.
okay, well, if you can work with Ms. Fernandez, I'm sure she can help you get all that together and we can submit that to the city because there's still some legal ambiguity.
If you can get that to me, and then we'll look at it and then we can follow up.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we do that, we still come back next month again. Is that right?
Maybe. It depends how quick you can get what you need and how quick they can review it, and we can go from there.
Okay, well, a lot of these stipulations, I need to pass by Wade. Because as I mentioned, and really emphasized it, we want the traffic controlled, future traffic controlled by ownership of that. In other words, we don't want the traffic. That's one of our main goals. But we also want the right of way to control the dust. So I'll pass this by him.
Okay.
And thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
Council, I'm gonna take a short 2-minute recess so that we can take a picture with Chief McCone and he can take his lovely wife to dinner in the big city. So if y'all.
Mayor Council, are we tabling item 615? Are you gonna wait till after the picture?
No action taken.
Okay.
It is 8:26. If y'all will indulge me in a quick 2 minutes so that we can get the chief up for a picture and out.
I'll take your picture. You want to take it by the, where do you want to?
Down here in front of the dais.
I think the sign.
We'll do both.
Good. Right.
Words.
Chris doesn't get it. Just take a picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You want the backdrop?
Let's do the love it here.
Let's do the love it.
Did we get the spider basket right here behind us?
I can shut that.
Oh, yeah, there's some.
Y'all need it. Does anybody need a restroom break? Okay. Still there.
That's not, I heard you.
We're all right, we're all the best people.
Yes, ma'am.
I know. But you're saying. Here, man. All right, keep coming up. Keep coming up.
Nora.
Okay, council, thank you so much for taking the brief break. We're going to go back and get started. Next up, we have, where are we at? Item 6.15, I'm sorry, 6.14. Discussion regarding the traffic calming study of Winston Lane between Foxhall Lane and Lock Hill Selma Road. Mr. Duque.
Yes, sir. Mayor Council, in 2023, several residents along Winston Lane petitioned the city to consider traffic calming devices on the street. Last November, the city engaged AC Group LLC to conduct a traffic calming study for Winston Lane between Foxhall Lane and Lock Hill Summer Road to justify the need for traffic calming measures. The traffic calming study included the recording of speed classification data, a description of traffic calming practices, a discussion of the study of methodology, speed classification data summary, and traffic calming conclusions and recommendations. The study's conclusions noted that the average operating speeds along Winston Lane were below the posted speed limit, and the 85th percentile speeds were within 3 miles per hour of the posted speed limit. In addition, the study stated that while speed cushions or speed humps may be the more beneficial traffic calming measure, other traffic calming measures may be more appropriate prior to the implementation of a traffic calming measure. The suggestions were rumble strips or police enforcement. However, the study noted the noise issues that would likely arise with rumble strips. If the city council is inclined to begin considering the installation of traffic calming devices, a policy defining the criteria for installation would be prudent. We would also have to have a discussion on funding. I don't believe that the installation of traffic calming devices is likely an eligible expense for the street improvement fund. So the general fund would have to fund the purchase of any traffic calming devices, signage, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Council, comments, questions, motions? Ms. Haley?
Well, if the traffic calming study showed that when they did it, that there wasn't speeding, that traffic was under the speed limit, it kind of seems to me like, what do you need a calming device for anyway? If you've got a certain time of the day when the people are racing up and down the street, that's an enforcement. That's a police issue to catch the people that are doing it instead of putting something down that's permanent if the people aren't speeding, according to this study.
Mr. May?
I was telling Mr. Carter before we started today, I personally observed the hitting of a deer at that corner right in front of his house. And why is that pertinent in this discussion? Because the study itself does not quantify scientifically or any other way that there is a need for equipment that, $10,000 here, $20,000 there for speed bumps. And frankly, it's not in the budget. However, there have been consistent comments from other residents and from my own observation that the least costly thing that we could do in that area and others, Lock Hill Selma is another, West Avenue is another, because I've seen the carnage, and having a sign that just says deer crossing or beware deer is a very minimal investment. And I think it sets the right tone. When I'm going by Mr. Carter's house on my usual walk and I see or hear a car coming to a screeching halt and a deer tumbling down and then popping up and then running off, it was lucky not to get killed, but it could be anybody. It could be a pedestrian. But I agree with what Ms. Haley said. We don't have any scientific evidence that suggests that we have an oversized problem in that particular area that's going to be solved specifically by calming devices. And because of that, I don't think we have a basis to proceed on calming equipment or speed bumps or those sorts of things.
Thank you, Mr. May. Mr. Smith?
In reading the study, back when we received it, one of the things I noticed is that they measured speed by using a very conspicuous radar device that shows you your speed. The very act of being observed changes other people's behaviors. Maybe we put the radar trailer out there more often And when people see that we're monitoring that, that will result in slower speeds without any additional expense. When I read the study, I was like, yeah, I'm not 100% with it. I know they use their scientific methods, but it's the very act of people knowing, oh, hey, they're looking at me, makes them slow down. Maybe we look at that as an option.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Daines?
Well, I mean, I totally agree with the idea that you put enough police out there writing tickets for speeders, they're going to change their behavior.
Or warnings.
Or warnings for speeders, they will change their behavior, or they'll change their route. If it's kids heading to Antonian that are late for school in the mornings, they'll go a different direction if they know that they can't get away with it on Winston.
So my biggest concern is the money. For years, people along the edge, Manton, Sunflower, Moss, Dogwood, Prince, Glen Tower, Carrollwood, Tamworth, Northcrest, Briarcliff have all asked for traffic calming devices to disincentivize people, and they're all in some way, shape, or form worthy, right? And that's just that portion. Then you have the southern portion. I think what we're seeing on Winston is more speeders than anything. I live in that area and I recognize the cars that don't stop at the stop sign and I see them flying by. And so it becomes an issue of not necessarily cut throughs, but also speeding. And so to what end would the city of Castle Hills owe it to everybody else to install speed bumps? And it's not lost on me that about 2 hours ago now, we just raised taxes because we don't have money to pay for everything else that we need. We have a great team here at the city that needs a cost of living adjustment because prices are going up. And I don't know where we would have the money to fund this Pandora's box that would potentially open. Council, do we have any comments, questions, motions? I'll ask one more time. Mr. Duque?
Mayor, council, we'll talk with the police department about the possibility of enhancing enforcement, but you know, we can look at special patrols. We can discuss the possibility of some overtime to have them do some special patrolling, but police presence is the recommendation of the study is to try that first. So I know they're trying, you know, police officers can't be everywhere at every moment of the day. I mean, it's just unfortunate they can't, but we can look into if there's some things we can possibly do to put a little focus on that, especially. I mean, I think it's a fair assumption that this is probably school traffic related. You know, and you can maybe target that between 7:45 and 8:30. And I don't know what time the school gets out, but you know, 45 minutes around. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Hayes.
I think we do need to remember there are other streets that have the same issue, and we got to look at the whole community. And once you start, then you've got another. I'm just concurring with what you said, but our job is to look at the whole community as well. So,
Thank you, Ms. Haley. Okay, no comments, Mr. Shaw.
This is not an action item, so
Okay,
when the discussion ends, you can move on.
perfect. Thank you, sir. If there's no further discussion, we'll go back to the front of the agenda and start with discussion and possible action on amending the purchasing policy for the city of Castle Hills. Mr. Duque.
Mayor Council, at the March 11th City Council meeting, the City Council requested staff develop a policies and procedures manual governing all purchasing activity for the city. At the April 8th meeting, the City of Castle Hills purchasing policies and procedures was adopted. Senate Bill 1173 was approved during the legislative session and it took effect on September 1. It is necessary to update the purchasing policy to reflect this change. In addition, I recommended other revisions enhancing the previous guidelines. The summary of revisions includes limiting the city manager's purchasing authority without city council approval to $25,000. delineating the Form 1295, which is the disclosure of interested parties and the anti-Israel boycott provisions in regard to purchasing, establishing a purchasing matrix denoting approval authority and type of bids/quotes required, establishing purchasing guidelines for purchases less than $3,000, purchases between $3,000.01 and $10,000, between $10,000.01 and $25,000, between $25,001 and $99,999.99, and greater than $100,000. This includes a notation on identical bids. Defining the state exemptions to competitive bidding included state contracts, co-ops, and interlocal agreements. Establish emergency purchasing guidelines, delineate the local preferences in purchasing, delineate the procedures for change orders, and delineate the ethics related to purchasing. Mayor, Council, I recommend approval of the revisions. It will be necessary for the staff who handles purchasing for their departments to be trained on these purchasing guidelines. I do want to note that the majority of the revisions codify existing state guidelines.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Can you repeat that real quick? Can we get a motion? Mr. May?
I have a question first.
Yes, sir.
I recognize the shorthand version of these changes, but I read the whole packet. And the part that I need to understand, because it's alarming to me, the particular part that has to do with contractors that have a principal stand on a particular country, in this case, Israel. Is this coming from the state legislature? Is this required by the state legislature?
Yes. Yeah, the legislature passed this bill 3 or 4 sessions ago. So it is not new law. It's relatively new, but it's not brand new.
There's a portal that you're supposed to go through when you're signing these contracts to acknowledge that the contractor is acknowledging that they do not boycott Israel. And there's already been litigation on that, and it's survived so far.
Right. Yeah, there have been constitutional challenges to the statute. There was one modification, as I recall, it involved a school teacher who had a contract, and she raised a religious reason why she should not be forced to do that. And they did modify the requirement for that instance, but otherwise it survived constitutional challenge in Texas. It also was the law in a number of other states. Texas was not the first one to adopt this provision. And as I said, it's been around, I think 6, 8, or 10 years. And so it's something that I see on a regular basis, not only on other contracts we've had in Castle Hills, but in the other governmental bodies I represent.
Well, the reason I find this disturbing is because it seems like it's boilerplate that's being put on every state legislature that the Koch brothers, for example, can get their hands on to design an end game. And I would go further and say that it may not be constitutional because it's interfering with our representation, our ability as a municipality to represent the best interests of our citizens in contract. And I don't know, it just alarms me. It seems wrong to me.
Thank you, Mr. May. We have a motion. We're on 6.4. Ms. Daines.
I move that we amend the purchasing policy for the city of Castle Hills based on the required guidelines by the state that
Thank you, Ms.
Mr. Duque pointed out.
Thank you, Ms. Daines. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Haley. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Next up, we have discussion and possible action on the purchase of a F-350 truck for Public Works. Mr. Duque.
During the budget process, the Public Works Department requested a new truck. Staff was given direction by the City Council during a workshop that there was no need to delay the purchase since a special fund was being utilized for the purchase. Staff solicited quotes from 3 vendors. The new purchasing threshold established by state law permitted staff to solicit quotes for the purchase. The lowest quote is from Cavender Grande Ford in the amount of $68,729 that would be paid via the Public Works line item of the contingency fund major purchases of vehicles. Staff recommends purchasing the Ford F-350 from Cavender Grande Ford in the amount of $68,729.
Thank you, sir. Council? Ms. Haley?
I move that we purchase the F-350
Thank you, Ms. Haley.
for Public Works.
Second.
Second by Mr. May. All in favor? I'm sorry, any discussion?
Oh,
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Next up, we have discussion and possible action to engage Ardura Group, Inc. for engineering services related to the City of Castle Hills Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit. Mr. Dukin.
Mayor Council, in early August, staff was contacted by a representative of TCEQ following a citizen complaint related to the storm sewer. The TCEQ staff member advised the Public Works Director and City Manager that the city's MS4, which is Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System permit, expired in 2019. The city's MS4 permit originally obtained authorization in May 2009 with renewed authorization in January 2015. Notice of intent to continue coverage under the general permit was not submitted in 2019, and the permit expired in July of 2019. A proposal was solicited from Ardura Group, Inc. The proposal price is $18,620, which shall be paid via the city engineer / plat fees line item in the general fund from the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. This is not a budgeted expense and will require a budget amendment next fiscal year to resolve.
Thank you, Mr. Dukin. Council? Mr. May?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the city manager to engage Ardura Group for the engineering services related to the City of Castle Hills Municipal Separate Storm Sewage System.
Thank you, Mr. May. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Haley. Any discussion? Comments, questions? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Next up, we have discussion and possible action on the purchase of a sanitation truck for Public Works. Mr. Duque.
Mayor Council, as part of the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget, there's an allocation to purchase a new garbage truck. The Public Works Department requests authorization to purchase via a state-approved contract. The garbage truck will replace a 2013 model. The purchase price is $191,811.18. The estimated delivery date of the new truck is late spring 2026. The truck shall be paid via the Major Purchases of Vehicles Fund. The fiscal year 25-26 allocation for this purchase is $150,000. However, there are sufficient funds available in the fund for the price overage. Staff recommends approval of the purchase via the buy board in the amount of $191,811.18.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Council, comments, questions? Ms. Haley?
I move that we purchase the sanitation truck for Public Works as described.
Thank you, Ms. Haley. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. May. Any comments, questions, discussions? 2 vehicles in 1 meeting, Mr. Harada. All in favor?
No joyrides.
All in favor, unanimous. Thank you, council. Next up, we have discussion of possible action regarding an amendment to the City of Castle Hills Employee Manual to include Section 6 compensation and Section 7 employee benefits. Mr. Duque.
Mayor Council, there are 3 recommended amendments to the employee manual. First is the addition of Section 6.8 moving/relocation reimbursement. The proposed policy revision permits the reimbursement of new employees. This is for department heads or salaried supervisor positions. Moving and/or relocation expenses up to $5,000. Any reimbursement in a greater amount would require city council approval. Offering this benefit is necessary to recruit qualified candidates and has become a norm in senior staff recruitment. Second is Section 7.2 vacation. The proposed policy revision allows the city manager in recruiting a new employee for a department head or salaried supervisor position to offer a revised vacation accrual schedule starting at 136 hours of vacation a year. This decision would be commensurate with the new employee's experience, qualifications, external forces, etc. Offering this benefit is necessary to recruit qualified candidates and has become a norm in senior staff recruitment. Third is 7.3 holidays. The proposed policy revision adds an additional paid holiday for city employees. The new holiday would be titled Birthday Holiday. The employee would schedule the utilization of this holiday based on the schedule of the department. The birthday holiday could not carry over to the next calendar year without approval from the city manager. Mayor Council, I recommend approval of the revisions to the employee manual effective September 9th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Luque. Council? Ms. Daines.
I move that we amend the Castle Hills Employee Manual to include Section 6 compensation and 7 employee benefits as described.
Thank you, Ms. Daines. Second by Ms. Haley. Any comments, questions? I just want to take a quick note to recognize Mr. Luque. I know that the budget is tight this year, as we mentioned, but this is a small way that we can give our team a little bit extra. And so if that wasn't picked up, that's really the objective here. So thank you. Ms. Daines.
Yeah, as I was reading this, I thought that was a very ingenious way of giving the employees a little bit more of what we know that we'll never quite get all the way up to what they deserve, but helps out a little.
Ms. Davis, you only have one birthday. All right, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Next up, we have a very administrative item, discussion and possible action on moving the November 11th regular city council meeting to November 18th. November 11th is Veterans Day. Is that correct, Mr. Luque?
Yes, sir.
So what you have in front of you is a simple administrative moving that council meeting. Do we have a motion? Mr. May?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move the November 11th regular city council meeting to November 18th, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. May. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Smith? Discussion? All in favor? Oh, you won't be here?
I won't be here.
We'll miss you. Mr. Schnall?
If this motion is adopted, this simply moves the regular meeting to the 18th. So the requirement for a quorum will be 3 members of the governing body. So if Ms. Daines is traveling or otherwise unavailable, as long as 3 other elected members of the council, Mr. Joyce, Mr. May, Ms. Haley, and Mr. Smith are here, we have a quorum.
Okay. We'll do that one more time. You have a question?
Is it unheard of to move it to a day that's not a Tuesday?
That is beyond my experience. However, I will tell you that it is very typical for cities to move. I have another city which had its November meeting, which is on a Thursday, coincide with Veterans Day several years ago. And I think they moved their meeting to the Wednesday before Veterans Day. But you know, it really is important to do something because we don't, this is a city holiday and we want to, you know, thank the employees and their family members who have been in the military. And it's a city holiday, so we shouldn't have the city staff have to open the building up for a meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Thank you, Ms. Daines. Okay, next up, we have discussion and possible action regarding an amendment to ordinance number 2020-07-14-B that established and amended the city's zoning codes, including the regulations of the Board of Adjustments to facilitate increasing the board quorum threshold from 3 members to 4 members. As I understand, this is another administrative item that puts us in line with the local government code so that our code matches that of LGC. Is that correct, Mr. Luque?
Yes, sir. The revision is based on needing to comply with state law as well as a city code that is conflicting with the current language.
Thank you, Mr. Luque. Mr. Smith?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the amendment to ordinance number 2020-07-14-B that established and amended the city's zoning codes, including the regulations of the Board of Adjustment to facilitate increasing the board quorum threshold from 3 members to 4 members as required by the local government code.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Ms. We have Mr. May with the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Next up, we have discussion and possible action on amending the regularly scheduled architectural review committee meeting dates from the first Wednesday of each month to fourth Wednesday of each month. Mr. Duque.
Mayor, council, currently the ARC meets on the first Wednesday of each month. With the revision to state law regarding the posting of city council meeting agendas, a recommendation from ARC on the first Wednesday of the month would not be timely to be included on the next city council meeting agenda. We're now posting 3 business days before the meeting, not 72 hours prior. City council meeting agendas are now being posted the Wednesday prior to the Tuesday meeting before 6:30 p.m. If the schedule were not adjusted, applicants would be waiting over a month for council action. Therefore, the recommendation is to reschedule the ARC meetings to the 4th Wednesday of the month.
Thank you, Mr. Duque.
Starting in October, correct? September's already scheduled. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Duque. Ms. Daines.
I move that we amend the regularly scheduled ARC meeting dates from the first Wednesday of each month to the 4th Wednesday of each month.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Daines, a second by Mr. May. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Okay, next up, we have discussion and possible action to give the zoning commission direction regarding possible amendments to the zoning ordinance to allow market events other than the farmer's market in a G general business district. Mr. Duque.
Mayor, council, at the August 12th meeting, Timothy Denker, the owner of Castle Hills Market, addressed the council and requested a change to the city ordinance to allow a temporary use permit and temporary sign permit. These changes would accommodate occasional events at his business location. If the council were inclined to facilitate this request, staff would need direction to relay to the zoning commission to begin exploring possible amendments to make this happen. Do we want to talk about the specific use permit?
The rest of Mr. Duquesne's agenda memo says, it is possible that this may be a moot issue. The city attorney is researching whether a specific use permit may be the permissible tool to approve this type of request. When this was brought to my attention, I guess last week, I spoke with Mr. Zamaron about the fact that we have a mechanism in the zoning ordinance for property in the G General Business District, which is where Mr. Denker's Castle Hills Market property is located. There is a mechanism if a use in the G Business District is not one of the specified permitted uses, there's a section in that zoning ordinance that says a person can apply for a different use as long as they get a specific use permit. And so the back door to allowing this request to move forward expediently without it having to go through a zoning commission process would be for Mr. Denker to apply for a specific use permit that would be simple for him to apply for, get a hearing before the zoning commission at its next meeting and bring it to the city council expediently and in time for the intended use, which is a holiday market. Mr. Zamaron, who's sitting back there, I think, was agreeable to my suggestion. I think it's been passed on to the requesting party and been accepted. Is that right, Mr. Zamaron? So, I don't think any council action is needed on this in light of the fact that we have found a workaround that's acceptable to this applicant. And I do think that this kind of a use is something that does merit individual consideration in order to make sure that the zoning commission and the council take into account the type of event, the size of the event, how many people are anticipated to attend the event, and whether there is adequate parking.
So this, Mr. Denker, was the boho market people. The the concern, we're very happy that the specific use permit is the tool we'll be able to use to make this happen. Because ultimately that makes you have the final say in making that decision. The concern, of course, will be if these requests expand outside of that zoning area and they start wanting to come out of different zoning districts. That's where that SUP may not be available, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So if you're comfortable with it, we'll proceed with the specific use permit approach.
And I will say that in the H district, everything needs an SUP district, SUP for any use in the H district, if I remember correctly. So the only districts that would not be covered through this approach would be the non-commercial business districts.
Mr. May?
I think that's probably the appropriate way to address this because it's narrowly tailored and we can assess whether there's going to be an anticipated problem. But I had to add, there was one prior market which was kind of billed as a farmer's market. I went all anticipating fresh vegetables and fruits, not a single vegetable to be had. So all I'm saying is let's try to encourage real farmers market, real farmers to come, because I think what I'm hearing from the community, that's what is wanted.
Thank you, Mr. May. Ms. Hayden?
So wouldn't they all just, G zoning is general business and H is, you said H.
It's a district where the uses are a little bit more intensive. I'd have to look at, I have the zoning code somewhere in this packet. But there are just 2 or 3 things that are permitted.
So it would be zoned for that, the special use or specific uses would apply to any, I mean, they're not going to do it in a residential area. They're going to do it where there's a business, something going on business wise anyway. Isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am. Like Mr. Schnall just said, it's going to be effective at a G general business. An H special business district already has to exist under a special use permit. And the use that Mr. Schnall was alluding to is a little more intensive. It has to do, RH is very close to an industrial type zoning. And it exists with an SUP anyway. If I may add my 2 cents, the SUP comes in front of zoning anyway. So you have that check system. So there's nothing lost.
Perfect. Okay, no action taken.
No action.
We'll move on to announcements by mayor and council members and items of community interest. Mr. Smith?
2 things tonight. First of all, I just want to give a quick update on the Carrollwood Drainage Project. We actually had a decent amount of rain on Saturday, and I was happy to report we had no water in the streets. So even though it's not finished yet, it looks like it's already working. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not going to say we're not by any stretch done and dusted yet. And 2, on a nonpartisan note, I just want to point out to people how many agenda items were foisted on us by the small government Republicans in the legislature. They're starting to really browbeat municipalities on how they can and can't do things. There's a bill in front of I think it's been through the House and it's from the Senate to limit the voter approval tax rate down to 1% increase, which will probably put 75% of municipalities in this state in the red within 10 years, if not sooner. Anyway, just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Haley?
So this is where we can be grateful that we have TML, Texas Municipal League, lobbying and doing what they do on municipalities' behalves. And we support what they do and show up when they have things. So we're informed too. That's our job. So I'm happy about all that. And October is it the 7th? The 7th, National Night Out. And from what I've heard so far, there haven't been many residences stepping up to host their block parties. So we've got to do some hustling to get some places for us to go and be part of our community out neighbor by neighbor. I'm excited about that.
Thank you, Ms. Haley. Mr. May?
I could not be more in agreement with my fellow colleague about the concern about the state legislature. And all of us have been invited to go to the TML conference. I hope we all can make it, or as many as possible. And I am just, for the greater good, we need to be active in voicing this with our other colleagues throughout the state, because we should be able to contract as we see fit on behalf of the people's work. We should not be circumscribed when we have a legitimate need for infrastructure improvement or necessary public services from raising taxes from time to time, especially when against our will, the people have been circumscribed in the past of keeping a consistent tax rate. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. May. Ms. Daines? Okay, I do want to note that we will be having a shred day on October 4th. So bring all of your sensitive documents that you want to shred, and that'll be from 9 a.m. to noon here at City Hall. Mr. Duque?
When are you all having the coffee with the COPS event? Is it the 4th too? The 4th at Moolala?
What time is that at, Lieutenant Davila? It's 7 to 10 at Moolala, 2211 Northwest Military Highway.
AM.
Oh, AM.
AM.
And PM. We'll do both. They're working 24 hours a day. We'll do both. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Davila. If anybody would like to go home, I would be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a
me move.
motion by Mr. May, a second by Ms. Haley.
Oh, you already did it? Okay, then I second.
So motion by Mr. May, second by Ms. Haley, all in favor? Meeting is adjourned. It is 9:06.